Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar focusing on the CLAS case competition that is coming up in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for joining us today. There are two of us here today that you'll be hearing from. My name is Lisa Famularo, and I am one of the career consultants in the Center for Career Development and will be one of the people helping lead this case competition. My main focus is working with students in the physical, life, and behavioral sciences within the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences.
And my name is Kristen Soprano. I am the other career consultant at the Center for Career Development who focuses on working with students in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, with my primary focus being on students within the humanities, social sciences, as well as the centers and institutes.
All right, so before we get started with the content of today's webinar, I'd like to go over a few items so that you know how to participate. You should see your attendee interface on your computer desktop in the upper right corner. You're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit questions by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You're welcome to submit questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect those questions and either answer them as they come up if we have time for that, or during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Note that today's presentation is being recorded and will be emailed to all webinar registrants within 24 hours. And we will also be posting this recording of this webinar on the CLAS case competition website. So if any of your friends or anyone you know wasn't able to attend today's webinar but still is interested in the information, they'll be able to access it there. So this is an agenda that will go over what we're planning on covering in today's webinar. We're going to start by talking a little bit about what is a case competition for those of you who may not be super familiar or may not have participated previously. We're then going to talk about some of the dates and deadlines for this fall's case competition. We're going to go over the eligibility requirements and logistics, the judging and prizes, and finally we'll end with a Q&A to make sure you have all of your questions answered.
So we're going to start off talking today first by what exactly is a case competition. For those of you who may not already be familiar with them, so a case competition is basically an event where you will participate in a team and be provided with a written case about either a real or hypothetical company that will be asking you to solve for a particular issue within a limited period, with a limited period of time to work on it. So during that time frame that you're going to have, teams are going to be asked to identify the most prominent issues facing that company based on the information provided, as well as develop a strategy to address these key issues in order to help the company achieve their goals. So again, identifying those issues and coming up with solutions that you might feel would be beneficial to implement. Teams are certainly not expected to be experts on the case material or the industry in which it's being presented. Rather, you are more expected to use the information provided, plus some of your own additional outside research to inform your strategy that then you will be presenting to a panel of judges at the end of the competition. Again, you are not expected to be experts on material or field, nor do you need to have any previous experience within that field or even completing a case competition in general. This is something that is meant for you to get exposure, learn more about the skills of working as part of a team, and really putting those critical thinking strategies to use. The key to a case competition and what winning strategies will look like is that they should be relevant, they should be practical, creative, as well as inclusive. So what are the benefits of participating in a case competition? First, you're going to be able, we talked about this a little bit before, but you're going to be able to apply the knowledge you are learning in your classes to a real world scenario. So again, what are those aspects you're learning in your classroom regarding your critical thinking abilities, your research abilities, your communication and teamwork skills? You're going to be able to further demonstrate these skills directly to the employers in all of these various areas as well that we just discussed. You'll also have an opportunity to network with employer and representatives from the company that regularly recruit CLAS students from UConn. So not only are you giving them a little bit of the value that you could provide as an individual, you're also going to potentially get some, inside information to what the company's like, what types of work the company works on a daily basis, a little bit more about their culture, and potentially some information regarding to future career opportunities. You'll also have an opportunity to network with Center for Career Development staff members, as well as other CLAS students that will help you further utilize these skill sets across campus, which then can be applied to any of your future goals. Competing in a case competition is also something that you can include on a resume. So another way to showcase those skills to future employers, and also demonstrate your ability to work in a real-time, large industry environment.
Okay, so now to provide a little bit more details about the timeline for this fall's case competition, these are the important dates and deadlines that you'll need to be familiar with. First of all, the registration period opened this past Tuesday on October 1st and will continue to be open until October 15th. So you still have a little over a week to decide whether or not you'd like to participate in the case competition. If you'd like to register, the link right there that you see on the screen is where the registration form is located. So you'll just navigate to that website and then you'll be able to enter the information about all of your teammates and agree to some of the logistical elements of the case before your team is registered. After that, on October 21st is when the case competition will begin, and that will happen at a mandatory case competition orientation. We'll talk a little bit more about what's going to happen at this orientation in just a few slides, but that is taking place on October 21st from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. in McHugh 301. We invite students from all campuses to participate in the case competition, but you will have to come physically to the store's campus for both the orientation and the final presentation, so it's important to keep that in mind. Speaking of the final presentations, those will be taking place on October 28th between 8 o'clock a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Your team will sign up for a time slot during that time, so you're not expected to be available for that whole window. But the day of final presentations will conclude with an award ceremony to announce our winners and allow you another chance to network with the representatives from Cigna. And that will all be taking place in Oak 408. One other thing to mention about these final presentations is that there will be an extra room available next door in case you'd like to come and drop off your items and kind of get together with your team and prepare before your presentation time slot comes up. So we'll remind you about these dates and deadlines at the end of the webinar, but just wanted to give these to you now as sort of an introduction to the timeline. Now moving into team eligibility for this case competition. So to start, teams are all going to be made up of 2 to 4 undergraduate students currently pursuing majors in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at UConn. So this case is specifically designed for CLAS students. If you're not a CLAS student, this case competition specifically isn't for you, but there are a lot of other events through the Center for Career Development and through your school or college that might be a really great fit. In addition, team members must represent at least 2 different majors within the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So we want to encourage you to get a bunch of different backgrounds academically on your team, so that way you're coming at the issue and the problem from a lot of different perspectives and different experiences. Among your team members, you must select one person to serve as the team captain, who, in addition to being part of the case competition team, will be responsible for registering the team, as well as submitting the PowerPoint for your team's final presentation. So not too much responsibility, but important things that the team captain will have to be in charge of. This one's important. All team members must be available to attend the mandatory case competition orientation and your team's final presentation. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, the dates of those are October 21st and October 28th. And if your team members are not at those events, unfortunately, your team will be disqualified. By participating in this case competition, all team members will agree to have their names, class years, and majors posted on Center for Career Development marketing materials. So that might include our webpage, blog, and social media pages. We want to showcase the great work that you're doing to everyone else in the UConn community, and this is a great way that we will be able to do that. Lastly, one important note is that team spots are limited for this case competition, so only the first 10 teams to register will be guaranteed a spot in the competition. So we recommend registering sooner rather than later, and we will send you a confirmation email to let you know whether or not you have been confirmed a spot in the case. And just wanted to quickly throw up a slide with all of the majors that are included in CLAS. So just take a second to make sure that your major or the majors of people that on your team that you're considering are on this slide. If they are not, like I said earlier, this case competition unfortunately is not specifically for you. But if you'd like to get in contact with us, we can maybe recommend some other events or other opportunities that might be a really great fit for you. This information is also on the CLAS website in the case that you want to look it up again in the future.
So our sponsoring employer for this particular case competition is going to be Cigna. For those of you who are not familiar, Cigna is a global health service company with 95 million customers around the world and more than 40,000 employees worldwide. They are available for their customers 24/7 with an expansive network built to help them meet their health goals. They are also on a mission to improve the health, well-being, and peace of mind for all that they serve. For the case that Cigna is providing us, all you need to know about it at this point is that you will be essentially be working for a health services company, and your primary focus will be on increasing the overall health and well-being of your customers. The company is going to be interested in a strategy that enhances the customer service and overall customer satisfaction. The rest of the information and specifics regarding the case will be revealed at orientation, but again, just to kind of help set the tone of what you and your teammates might be starting to think about ahead of time, we'll really be bringing into more of those, those problem solving related to overall customer facing industry issues.
All right, so now that you know a little bit about the theme, we want to talk a little bit more about the format of how this case competition is going to be taking place. First, at the mandatory case competition orientation, all teams will receive a 1 to 2 page written case developed by our employer partner, Cigna. Also at this orientation, representatives from Cigna will be available to answer any questions you have about the case. This is the only time representatives from Cigna will be available to answer questions, which is why it's really important that your team is present so that you can get your questions answered during this time frame. Next, you will have approximately 1 week to do your research and develop a plan to address all aspects of the case. The format of the final presentations for this case competition will be PowerPoint. So your team will be expected to develop a PowerPoint to present your plan. And the PowerPoint must be submitted to our collection form by 11:59 p.m. the evening before your final presentations. So you'll have about a week to work on it. You'll submit it before midnight the night before, and then you're welcome to practice the day of in the morning. But we want to make sure that we can keep everything running smoothly by having your PowerPoint ahead of time and having everything ready to go. At the final presentations, each team will have 10 minutes to present your PowerPoint to a panel of judges, including representatives from our employer partner, Cigna, and 5 minutes to answer questions from the judges for a total of 15 minutes. So this is really what you'll be focusing on that final day of the presentation. So you'll want to make sure that everything you have planned to speak about and to contribute as part of your plan for the case can fit into that 10 minutes that you'll be allotted to do your presentation. And here's some more information about the logistics of how those final presentations will go. You and your team will be signing up for your final presentation time slot at the mandatory orientation. So I know a lot of people have classes and maybe exams on the 28th, but on the 21st, you'll be able to pick a time for your team that works for everyone and doesn't result in any conflicts. Like I mentioned on the previous slide, presentations will be a strict 15 minutes in length. That's 10 minutes for the presentation and 5 for the questions. We will be using a timer, so you will only have this time that you're allotted, so make sure that that goes into your preparation. You will be expected to cite the sources that you use to help develop your strategy to address the case. The format of these citations is up to you, but we want to make sure that we're giving credit where credit is due. So please make sure that you do give credit to your sources in your final PowerPoint presentation. Again, just a reminder, your PowerPoint will need to be submitted by 11:59 p.m. on the night before the final presentations. You'll get a link to the form to do that a little bit later in the competition, but just wanted to give you that heads up now. And if it's not submitted, that will also be an element of the competition that will disqualify you from competing in the final round. All team members must be present for the final presentation and contribute to it. You're not required to be present for the other team's presentations, but we want to make sure that if 4 of you worked on this presentation together, that all 4 of you are there to present it and get an opportunity to interact with our judges from Cigna. And lastly, if you'd like, you are welcome to create a handout to accompany your presentation. We are going to allow up to 1 page front and back for this handout, but of course this is not required. If you choose to develop a handout, we do ask that you print it yourself ahead of time and bring it with you, making sure that you have enough copies for each of the judges, and the final number of judges will be confirmed at the orientation on the 21st.
So in relation to the judging, as we mentioned, we're going to have a panel of judges who will be scoring each presentation based on the following criteria. First being relevance. That is the degree to which the plan addressed all elements of the case outlined. Second will be more of the practicality. So that includes to the degree of which the plan could actually be implemented in a real-time environment utilizing reasonable resources. Third will also be creativity. So to what extent has your team balanced ideas generated from your research as well as original concepts that you have developed yourself? How are you thinking outside of the box? Lastly, the judges are going to be looking at a level of inclusivity. So again, to which degree does your plan take into account all stakeholders who might be impacted? How well, again, does it, that can include how it impacts the customers, how it can impact your internal partners. So again, all individuals who may or may not be involved. Each team will receive a final score based on an average from all the judges. We will then assign first, second, and third place winners, which will be announced at the awards ceremony immediately following the final presentations. There will be prizes that will be awarded to the first, second, and third place winners. Those prizes will be gift cards in different values between $50 to $100. The exact breakdown of those cards in relation to first, second, and third will be mentioned at a later time, but just know that there is the gift card prize that is associated with this.
All right, so here on the screen, you can see a reminder of all the important dates and deadlines that are going into this fall's case competition. So as I mentioned earlier, you have the chance to register between now and October 15th. The mandatory case competition is on October 21st, and the final presentations will take place on October 28th. Wanted to put this slide up again just so that you can jot down these dates if you haven't yet already. And that brings us to the close of the information that we had prepared to share with you today about the case competition. So at this point, we'd like to open it up again to questions. As a reminder, you can submit questions either in the chat feature or in the questions tab of the dashboard that you see on the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll take a few minutes to answer those before wrapping up today's webinar.
So we don't currently have any questions coming in through either the chat feature or the questions feature. Again, this does conclude the presentation. So if you do not have any additional questions, you are free to close down your browser. Again, we will be happy to address any questions that may come up in the future by contacting us directly at the Center for Career Development or answering them in person at the mandatory orientation. But we will be happy to stay on the line for a few minutes longer should any come up. And actually, we do have one that just came in. Will we be choosing our own teams?
Great question. So the answer to that is Absolutely, yes. If you are interested in competing, you will have the chance to register your whole team together. So whether that's 2, 3, or 4 people, you'll all fill out the registration form together under the lead of your team captain, who will be responsible for actually submitting the form. And the slide that you see currently on the screen with the URL, that is where the registration form for your team is located. So just go ahead and navigate to that site. You'll be able to see all the logistical information that we went over today, as well as the registration form.
So again, we will hang on for a few more minutes, as I know that sometimes typing a question in a chat feature can be a bit daunting. So we will hang on the line for a few minutes longer, should any more questions arise.
All right, so we don't see any additional questions coming through, so we're going to go ahead and shut down today's webinar. Again, the URL with the information about the case is on the screen. You'll receive a video recording to your email with this webinar, as well as it'll be posted to the website that you see on the screen right now. And if you do have any additional questions, you're welcome to reach out to the Center for Career Development or me directly. My email address is right on the screen here. So thanks again for tuning in with us, and we look forward to seeing you in our list of registrants for the competition. Have a great rest of your day.